I took about 600 Kodachrome color positive images during the time that I was over in Vietnam. A lot of guys carried rifles on the back of their seat in the helicopter, and I always had a camera strapped over the back seat. My name's William S. Roby, commonly known as Bill Robie. During the Vietnam War, I was a helicopter pilot and served for 12 months of active duty. Well, it's kind of an interesting story as to how I got into the Vietnam War. I was going to the Colorado School of Mines. This is a letter that I received in April 1966 when I was going to the School of Mines. And it's from my local draft board back in Massachusetts where I grew up. The local board wishes to advise me that because of my information about my student activity, I will not be required to report as ordered for an Armed Forces physical examination on April 13, 1966. This gave me a student deferment. This is the document that got me interested in ultimately wanting to apply for the aviation school and to be a helicopter pilot. And I thought this was pretty darn cool. Be a helicopter pilot as a warrant officer in the U.S. Army. Serve your country and learn how to fly. I thought that would be pretty darn cool. I started out as a brand new helicopter pilot. We were called newbies. For the first few months, they basically told us, our senior pilots that we had a chance to fly with, told us to forget everything you knew and start learning all over again from what we tell you and what you learn over here. And after about 6 months, all of a sudden we were pretty experienced, and there were a lot of new guys that were just coming in. And one day we'd walk out to the flight line to get our orders, our instructions for a particular mission, and we'd find out that we were now a command pilot. And we got to sit in the other seat on the left side of the aircraft. And now there was a brand new guy, a newbie, sitting on the seat where we used to sit. And it was now our job to teach him everything that we knew about flying safely in Vietnam and not getting shot down. These are some of a few of the pictures that I took. This is one in particular that I like, from the left side of the helicopter in the pilot's seat, looking down through the chin bubble at some of the kids that came over to look up and see who the pilot was. One of the problems with this is sometimes the Viet Cong would pay kids to take a landmine, not a landmine, but a grenade, and walk up to the helicopter pretending that they were just an innocent little kid. And they do something like this, and then they drop a grenade underneath the helicopter and turn around and run off. So something like this wasn't necessarily a real safe thing to do. This is a model of the UH-1H Huey helicopter. The area where I flew in Vietnam was in the mountains, where there's a little less air and it needs more power in order to lift. So we were one of the first units in Vietnam to be assigned the L-1300 UH-1H helicopter, which was really a nice helicopter to fly. We were the stallions, and we had a stallion on the door of our helicopters, and we were in the 2nd platoon, and the 2nd platoon kind of had blue markings, so that's what I flew. When I look back on my time in Vietnam, it's something that for the most part I'm pretty darn proud of. Pilots were trained to do pretty hazardous duty, and our flight school training, as I think I mentioned before, was about 200 hours over 9 months. And we got pretty good at what we were doing. We were taught very well. And of course, when we got to Vietnam, we had to take that experience and kind of learn everything all over again in combat conditions. But we had to fly in incredibly difficult conditions that you'd never run into here in the United States. And it made us pretty darn good pilots, because we had to get 100% out of the aircraft in order to complete the mission, in order to do what we needed to do, in order to keep from crashing. Low-level flights were dangerous, We either had to fly like about 5 or 10 feet off the ground over the rice paddies and up and over the dikes or around the trees, or we had to fly higher than 1,500 feet, which was the altitude that was typically determined to be safe from small arms fire, and of course they were shooting at us all the time. I really felt proud of what I did in Vietnam because we were all pretty darn good at what we did. And looking back on the Vietnam War now, I enjoyed the flying over there, even though it was dangerous. There were times that were pretty tough. A lot of guys crashed. A number of guys in my unit were actually killed. But at the time, we were all Superman. We were bulletproof. Nothing could ever happen to us. The bullets would all move around us. But looking back on the war, it was an unfortunate situation that now, when we look back on it, we might have thought things through differently. But we did what we thought we needed to do at the time, and I was proud to have been a part of it.